Hi there, welcome to Transco Trailer Sales. Today we'll be walking you through your 2019 KZ Escape M181KS. We are just going to start off the back unit. The back of the unit, that is where you will find your spare tire. And then coming around to the left side of the unit, however, you do get access from both sides. You just take that bumper cap, give it a squeeze, and it should pop right off. It's where you're going to find your sewer hose. It's the best place to store it, as it is going to keep as much smell out of the unit as possible. And then in this corner, as well as all four corners of the unit, you got your stabilizer jacks. And that's going to be extremely important that you already have leveled the trailer before you try running these, as they're stabilizing jacks, they're not leveling jacks. If you try and use them to level the unit, there is the risk that you run of bending them. Same goes for if you're running them up or down with an impact, so just be safe whenever you are doing so. But just once this foot does contact the ground, just giving it another 1/8 quarter turn to snug it up. It'll take any bounce or sway you see we have in the unit right now away. Exterior shower, it's your standard 751 key to open up that guy. Then you get your city water connection, so if you're out of sight with service, you can just thread a garden hose in there and plug it in, turn it on, and it pressurizes all those lines without the need to run your water pump. And then right next to it, it is just considered a black tank flush. Now, it's very important you do read the caution sticker whenever you're using it. I do recommend using it every use. Of course, we know that's not always possible, so again, just try and use it as much as possible. It helps break those solids down that much more, and it just keeps the tank that much cleaner. That's going to help with false monitor panel readings and so on. But it is just very important that whenever you are using it, you make sure that your sewer hose is connected and your black tank valve is open, because failure to do so, you're pushing pressure inside of that tank, and if it has nowhere to go, it could expand that tank to the point of cracking. Now coming to my left, it's pretty simple. Take that sewer hose, twist it, pulls right on off. Your sewer hose is going to have the same ears, and it should connect right on up to here. You're going to have your black tank valve, which is one you're going to want to empty last. This can be your dirtiest water filled from your toilets. And then you got your gray tank valve, which is typically a little cleaner water filled from your sinks and your showers. That is the one you're going to want to do first. Coming up further ahead, you got a couple different fridge service ports. There's not much you need to worry about there. You get your fresh water tank fill. So if you're out boondocking or you're just at a campsite with no water, you just put a garden hose in there or siphon water in, however you want to do it. And that's what fills up your fresh tank. That's what your water pump draws off of. Right here, you get your hot water service port. You're just taking that, moving that, and pulling that down. You get an 1 1/8 drain bolt right down here at the bottom. This anode rod is a wearable part. It's just to help keep that hard water from corroding up too much inside of the tank. Again, keep an eye on that, and it is an 1 1/8 to take that out. We currently have the unit winterized, which is why that's out. It's wintertime here in Manitoba, so you're probably picking this up in the springtime. Whenever you first get to your campsite, hitting that pressure relief valve, there should be a shot of water coming out of there, letting you know that the tank's full and safe to fire up. If there's no water coming out of there, do not try to fire your tank, otherwise you do run the risk of burning it out. I'm going to go over a reset procedure once we get inside. The button I'm going to refer to is just right there. Once that you do what you need to do in there, you can just line that back up, push it firmly into place, and it does click and lock into place just like so. If you stick your head down below there, you're going to see a couple different drains there. Those are your low point drains for the unit, so it's always a good idea to crack those whenever you're not using the unit for a while to stop water from going stale or stagnant. Storage compartment does go right through to the other side. Coming around to this side of the unit, got your battery disconnect switch here on the cover. With it in the on position like it is now, the batteries are connected to the unit. Turning that to the off position would then disconnect the batteries from the unit. Battery is located inside this box here. And then underneath this cover, you get your 2 standard 20-pound propane tanks. Right underneath, most of the time you get what you need done just by flipping that cover back. But for the purpose of the video, because you will probably have to remove this cover, it does just slide right out of place. At that point, you got your 2 standard tanks right at the front. On the front of your regulator, you're going to notice this little arrow. When it's pointed to this tank, you are drawing off this tank, so counterclockwise, like any standard barbecue, nice and slowly to open up the flow of propane to the unit. Now, if this tank were to go empty, you just have to close it off, switch this over to this side, and then you can start drawing off this tank while you're filling up this one. This is just going to be the other side, your storage compartment. Inside there is also where you're going to find your power cord and your starter kit. Inside your starter kit, you're going to find a 10-foot sewer hose, some other miscellaneous goodies, as well as a 15 amp park adapter. This is a 30 amp trailer, and with a 30 amp plug-in, which is like a stove plug-in at home, you can run the full potential of this trailer. But let's say your campsite only has 15 amp service, which is your standard household outlet. Or if you want to run the unit at home, again, and you're just plugging it into a standard outlet, that's totally fine and dandy. Most of the things should still work, just minus the air conditioner. It's a high drawing appliance. 15 amps is not enough for it. It's going to trip your breaker if you try and run it, so don't. Furnace exhaust, whenever your furnace is running, that'll be blowing out hot air, so be mindful of that. And then you get the handle to get inside, take that, push it up, hold it at 90 degrees. That'll lock it into place. That'll allow you to open up and get inside. One last storage compartment over there. Stairs, just kind of pulls them out and locks them down. Now that'll allow you to take a step on inside. When you're opening the door, just be careful, because if you open it up too much, it does run into contact with your fender. You're not going to want to damage that too much. So just be mindful when you're opening it. Taking a step on inside, first thing you notice off on the right is that fire extinguisher, which is just like home. Pull the pin and shoot. And then up on my wall to the left, you got a couple different light switches. That one light switch on the left is going to do that awning LED light, and the button right next to it is going to do the main living space light, so you can at least see what you're doing when you do get inside. Next, you got your awning control, push and hold out. The awning is going to start making its way out. Now, whenever you're rolling this awning out, it's always good to be mindful. Watch it rolling out. Make sure it's not doing anything weird, going out uneven, making any bad noises. And then, of course, when you are putting this awning out, you're always going to be mindful of the wind speeds. Once the wind speeds start picking up, this acts exactly like a wind sail. It will rip right off the trailer, causing you a bunch of money, which we don't want. So again, keep an eye on the wind speeds. Once they start picking up, just bring it in. It's just that much safer. You got your pitch control, so you just pull down at that center arm. It's going to change the pitch to the awning head, allowing water to now run off if it were to start raining. Now, of course, if you like that angle better, because it also allows for more shade underneath, you can do the same thing with the front arm. Just make sure that you do push both arms back to straight, their natural resting positions, before you try and bring the awning in. That way it just rolls in nice and even and doesn't bend or damage anything. And then to bring it in, it is as simple as pushing and holding the in button. The awning is going to start rolling its way in, and once the arms contact the side of the trailer, the motors will automatically cut out. Now, if you had to roll this awning in while it was wet, it's not the end of the world. Just try and remember to your next earliest convenience to roll it back out and allow it adequate time to dry off. That way it will accelerate the growth of mold or mildew inside your canvas, which can get pretty gross. Again, these arms are going to now contact the side of the trailer, and the motors will automatically cut out and you're good to go. Next, you get your slide out room control. Now, it's always a good idea, especially since it's so accessible, before you ever run your slide out, just do a quick visual check inside and outside. And the reason I say inside is things do tend to shift during travel. Just make sure that there's nothing that's going to get caught between the slide out fascia and the wall, causing any damage as it goes out. And then just, of course, on the outside, making sure you have enough room for it to go out and not run into anything. Once you do that, you can just push and hold that out button. The slide out is going to start making its way out. Once it reaches its full extension, you hear the nose wind up and click, and you can let off the button. Now, it's always best to do full strokes if you can. It's just that much easier on the drive system and the gear system inside that slide out, and you're going to see the motor's wound up and quit. So now you're at your full extension. Now, if you want to be extra cautious, you can just run your hand between the slide out fascia and the wall. You're going to want to make sure that you do feel it sealed and butted up against there. That way you're sealing out any sort of moisture. Now inside, again, you got your bathroom behind door number 1. Maybe that's the one we'll go through first. But first, I'll show you down here by the floor. You get your main fuse and breaker panel. Whenever a breaker trips, it'll sit in the middle, so you just have to turn it off and then back on again to reset it. All your corresponding fuses will be on the right. Opening up this door will bring you into the bathroom. The lights are on their own center push buttons. So other than your main, the only light that's going to be on a switch is your main living space lights. All the rest of the lights are on their own center push buttons. You can turn them on and off as you desire. And of course, you're going to find tons of them, so kind of explore them as you find them. Into the bathroom. It's a nice, large, spacious bathroom, especially due to the size of the trailer. And then the main things you really need to worry about inside the bathroom is that main GFI plug. So if you ever have an outlet that doesn't work, 90% of the plugs are going to be ran through GFI, so they're moisture protected. Sometimes they can trip for the oddest reasons. So again, if you have an outlet that doesn't work, just give this a quick check, making sure it's not tripped. And then to our left, you get your kind of water control area. Pushing the button will tell you the corresponding level to each tank as you press the button. Then, of course, you get your water pump switch. Turning that on does a draw to your fresh tank. And then you come to your water heater switch. Now, when you go to light it, you're going to notice gas on one side, electric on the other. If you go to fire up that water heater on electric, it's extremely important. It's extremely important for both options, but even more so for the electric option, because if you went to go turn it on electric, that water heater element turns on instantly. And if that water heater element is even out of water for a few seconds while it's on, it's going to burn itself out. They're probably, if I had to guess, don't quote me on it, I'm not in parts, I bet you they're about $120 to replace. Again, that is something pretty pricey these days, so be safe whenever you're using it. And then if you are firing it on gas, you're going to turn this switch on. Water heater's going to try lighting itself 3 times. If on the third try it doesn't light, this fault light's going to stay on. At that point, you do have to turn the switch off. Go hit that reset button I showed you earlier, and then come try refiring it. That goes for any of the propane appliances in this unit. If you try them the first time and they don't work, always try them a second time. It could be a purging issue. I will be going over some purging notes once we do get to our stove. So we'll go over that once we get there. Other than that, it's a pretty standard bathroom. They do include this nice little cubby space for any sort of toilet paper, towelry you want to put in there. Now we're into main living space. Again, there's going to be storage throughout. Thermostat on the wall here. This is to fire up your furnace. Again, it's going to be important that you purge the propane system first before you try and fire this, because again, it'll only try lighting itself a couple times. If it doesn't sense a flame, it's going to throw a fault code, or in this case, just not light. And if you don't know what that means, could throw a little bit of frustration, especially if it's freezing outside like it is today. But to turn it on, you just turn it all the way to the right. That's going to be its hottest setting. Anywhere you leave it before that is a warmer setting. Whenever you do fire up that furnace and then you go to turn it off, it does run for an additional 3 minutes to allow itself adequate time to cool off. And it does run off propane, and there's only 1 fan speed. To my right, you do get your little dinette space. It's currently set up as an eating area. But if you were to take that table leg underneath the bottom of the table out of the way, set your tabletop on its desired ledges, you can take your back cushions, fill in the center, and you would have yourself another bed, especially if you had some guests you weren't intending on. Up on the wall here, it's your kind of entertainment center for the area, for the unit. You got your speaker control, so you can either choose between inside or outside speakers. Little USB plug-in, which is nice, and then right down below is your stereo. It works pretty much exactly like home. Bluetooth, all those good features. In the back area is your main sleeping space. Again, the light's going to be on its own center push button here. You got a TV mounted over here. It's the best place for it. Up on the wall, you get these coax outlets. It's going to be hard to see on the camera, but there is this little black button beside that. Turning that on turns that green light on. That's turning your antenna on the roof. Now that's also going to improve radio frequency and cell phone frequency. So I do recommend leaving it on whenever you're using the unit. But try and remember to turn it off whenever you're not using it. That way you're not drawing any excess battery power. You got your fire exit for the unit that works pretty simply. You just pull on this red tab, screen's going to pop right out of place. At that point, you can take this red handle, push it up and push, pull it up and push, and at that point you can hop on out of the unit. Try and be mindful of how high you are off the ground. It is best to go feet first, but if there's a fire, getting out as quickly as possible is the most important thing. Front bed mattress area, if you pick it up, you're going to notice you got 1 compartment here that gives you access to some storage space. But not only that, it gives you access to the back of your water heater as well as your water pump for winterization. So that's what's underneath there. Got your fridge. On-off button is on the right. You do just have to push and hold it to turn it on or off. Turning it on. You got your mode setting. Pushing that. When you're in auto, which is both of these lined up, it's going to first search for shore power. If shore power is taken away, it would automatically switch over to gas, being very important that you already have the system purged. When you do try to fire this up on gas, it is always a good idea to stick around for a few minutes just to make sure that it actually lights on gas before you walk away, because if it failed to light, it's going to start beeping and booping, and if you weren't around, your fridge isn't going to continue running. And, well, if you have food in there, that's a really bad day. But let's say you're leaving the next morning, again, another bad day because your fridge wouldn't be cold and your significant others probably not be happy. And then if you wanted that to run solely on one option or the other, you do just have to press the button and you can have it solely light on gas. Pushing the button again, it'll just stay on AC. temp mode set to change your set temperature. That is a little child lock. You have to push that open to open it up. You do get actually a little freezer up top, which isn't common, so that's pretty sweet. Microwave up top, not much I'm going to show you there. Brings me to my kitchen area. Now, I know it looks small, but they do make great space, and they give you all this counter space for any sort of appliances you had with you. And it brings me to my stove. Now, because this unit's equipped with propane, you got your LP detector right here near the ground. If that guy does ever start going off, don't panic. Just turn off the main supply propane at the front of the unit, open up some windows and vents, and get some fresh oxygen inside of here. Now, I went over purging a lot over the last couple minutes, so I'm going to kind of go more in depth now. Whenever you turn the propane system off at the front of the unit, and especially if you've disconnected one of the bottles, it does allow air into the system. Once air makes its way out, makes its way in, it has to be purged out. Now, again, the quickest, easiest way to do that, and I tell every customer this, is by firing up. Whenever you first get to your campsite, whether you turn the propane on or off or whatever it happens to be, I always just recommend firing up your stove first thing. It's just that sure shot way to get propane flowing, so that way when you do go try to light something else up, it lights first try typically, and you're good to go. So now, because this is gas and it's a stove, you're going to want to try and keep your face away from it whenever you're lighting it, and always try and have a window open, so that way once you're making those propane fumes, the propane fumes do make their way out. This vent lid above my head can be a very great way to do that. You just have to turn it clockwise to open it up, and it opens up. A little switch in the left corner turns on that fan, and you start either blowing in or sucking out air. Now, you're going to notice it does open up straight into the atmosphere. So if it were to start raining, it's going to get wet inside of here. Now, we sell Max air covers here at the shop. It's going to be a great little addition to add to your camper. It's going to be a vent lid that goes over top of this. Now, that's going to allow you to run that when you're cooking. When it's raining, adds a little bit of extra protection against hail. If you'd like to get set up with that, it is as simple as contact your parts department, and they'd be more than happy to help you out. I do recommend them, again, because especially if you were to forget that open while traveling, there's a good chance you get to your campsite and it's going to be wrecked. Back to my stove, though, for the purging issues. Get your lighter handy. As soon as you turn this gas valve on, I always recommend get your lighter going before you actually turn that gas valve on, because the way this is working is you're pushing air out of the system, right? And air isn't flammable, but once the gas does start making its way through, if you don't have this lit and ready when you're going around it, if you were to start having gases starting to build up, there could be a minor combustion when you do go to light it. And if your face was nearby, you're probably going to lose your eyebrows and eyelashes. And I don't know about you, but that does not sound like fun to me. So just be safe whenever you're doing it. Kind of try and hold your head back and be prepared. So we're going to get that lighter going, turn it over to the high option, and you're going to see it does fire right on up. Now today it fired up so quickly, and that's only because I had the system running earlier. Sometimes it can take a few minutes, so you do just have to be patient with it, but it will fire right on up. Now I think that is it for this unit here, so if you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call.